When you hear the name Miriam, you probably think of a prophetess, a worship leader, a hero, right? The sister who stood watch by the river. But her story, it's also about pride, rebellion, and the absolutely stunning consequences that came with it. So today, we're going to unpack the powerful and honestly, really complex life of Miriam.
And really, this single question, just whispered out there in the desert, it's the flashpoint for her entire story. You can feel the frustration, the jealousy behind it, and it's a question that's going to change the course of her life forever. Because she's not just challenging her brother here, she's challenging God himself.
I mean, think about it. Miriam had a front row seat to some of the most mind-blowing miracles in history. She had this position of immense honor, and yet, what her story shows us is that even for someone that close to God, pride can sneak in. It can take root in the most subtle and, frankly, the most dangerous ways.
Okay, so to really understand where things went wrong, we have to go back to the beginning. We've got to understand her incredible start. So let's rewind, all the way back to a time of immense danger in Egypt, because that's where Miriam's story of courage and faith really begins.
This was the world Miriam was born into. Just try to picture it. A world where the government itself ordered the murder of babies, all to crush her people. I mean, the stakes just couldn't have been higher for her family, especially when her baby brother Moses was born.
Now, what her mother does next, it might look like abandonment, but it was anything but. This was an act of pure, desperate faith. Her mother Yocheved takes the very river that was supposed to be a place of death, the Nile, and turns it into a vessel for salvation. It's this incredible move, trusting God to hide her son right out in the open. And that sister, standing there at a distance, that was Miriam. You know, this is the very first time we meet her in the Bible, and she's not even mentioned by name. She's defined by her action, watching. She's this quiet, vigilant guardian, just a young girl with this massive responsibility on her shoulders.
Okay, so just picture the scene for a second. The daughter of Pharaoh himself, the guy who ordered the death of all Hebrew boys, she finds the basket. She opens it, she sees a crying baby, and she knows it's a Hebrew child. For a second, everything just hangs in the balance. What do you do in that moment? What would you do?
And this is where Miriam's courage just explodes onto the scene. She doesn't run, she doesn't hide, no. She boldly steps forward. She sees her chance, and with some incredible quick thinking, she cooks up a plan that not only saves her brother's life, but gets her own mother paid to nurse him. I mean, it is an absolutely brilliant move. You're seeing leadership potential in its purest form right there.
All right, so let's fast forward a bit. Years go by, that baby in the basket, he grows up to be Moses, the one who leads Israel out of Egypt. But what about Miriam? Well, she's not just the watchful big sister anymore. Oh no, she has become a national leader in her own right.
And you can really see her incredible transformation here. Think about it. Back at the Nile, she was young, quiet, reacting to a crisis. But now at the Red Sea, after seeing God literally split the ocean in two, she steps up. She becomes this vocal, proactive leader, guiding the entire nation in worship.
And this moment right here, it just perfectly captures her new status. The scripture gives her an official title, Miriam the prophet. She isn't just tagging along anymore. She is the one kicking off one of the biggest celebrations in Israel's entire history. This is Miriam at the absolute peak of her influence. But you know how it goes. The journey through the desert is long, it's hard. Those triumphant songs from the Red Sea start to fade into memory. And soon, the very same woman who led the nation in worship would start to lead a rebellion. So on the surface, the complaint seems to be about Moses' wife, but the text makes it really clear that was just an excuse. It was a cover for something deeper. The real issue? It was jealousy, plain and simple. Miriam had always been a leader right alongside her brothers, and now she was really struggling with the fact that Moses had this unique, singular role as God's chosen spokesman.
And then you get these chilling words in the Bible. The Lord heard them. You know, their private little complaint session was about to become a very, very public confrontation. Because God himself steps in to settle this, summoning all three of them, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, to the tabernacle. You can just feel the weight of that moment. The gravity is immediately clear. And this is where God just lays it all out. It's this powerful rebuke. He draws a clear line in the sand. He says, look, I speak to other prophets in visions and dreams, but with Moses, it's different. It's direct, face to face. And then he asks this soul-crushing question. "So why were you not afraid to criticize my servant Moses?" That question just hangs there, right? The implication is they completely forgot who they were really challenging.
Well, God's anger wasn't just about words. The consequences for Miriam's challenge, they were immediate, they were severe, and they were designed to be deeply, deeply humbling.
And the response from God unfolds in this really dramatic sequence. It starts with this: 3 siblings get a direct summons from God to the tent of meeting.
Then, God makes one thing crystal clear. There is only one servant, just one, that he speaks to face. And finally, the consequence for Miriam. 7 days. 7 days of exile outside the camp. A punishment so significant, the entire nation of Israel has to stop and wait for her.
The symbolism here is just so powerful. She's struck with leprosy, her skin turning white as snow. Think about it. A disease that makes you a total outcast becomes the public mark for her private pride. You have to imagine that in the silence of those 7 days, she learned a profound lesson about humility and about the fear of God.
But here's the thing. This isn't the end of her story, not by a long shot. Her failure didn't end up defining her legacy. Instead, it refined it.
You know, when you step back and look at her entire life, you see this incredible journey. From the watchful sister at the Nile River, to the worshiping prophetess at the Red Sea, then the prideful rebel in the desert, and the humbled exile at Hazeroth. But she ends her life in Kadesh, fully restored to her people, having made it with them all the way to the edge of the Promised Land.
So her moment of failure wasn't just swept under the rug. It wasn't forgotten. No, it was actually transformed into this crucial lesson for every generation of Israel to come. A permanent warning to remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam. A warning against pride and against challenging the authority that God puts in place.
So in the end, was Miriam judged harshly? Absolutely. But she was also healed and she was restored. And that's what makes her story force us to ask a really deep question. Is God's correction just about punishment? Or could it also be a form of grace? A really severe, painful form of grace, sure, but one that's designed not to destroy us, but to refine us.